I have killed more products over the last 2 years than I've put out of new ones. So it's been one of those, like, what do they call that? Subtraction to multiply. I've been simplifying, and I'm getting ready to do it again. I just printed all my year-end numbers and everything, and I'm gonna basically focus 5 pages of products listed on the report of how many I sold throughout the year and how much money they brought in and all that. And I'm only focusing all my marketing on page 1, and then page 2 through 5, I'm just gonna look and see if there's any sleepers that maybe if I had done a better job marketing and letting the world know about them, they would have done better. But other than that, those are the ones that I'm going to be phasing out. As they sell out, I'm not going to replenish the stock. I'm going to try and get my SKUs down to where there's fewer, but way better products, way more needed. And you know, the industry votes with their wallet is how I always look at things.
Hello, and thanks for being on listening to the Intentional Leadership Podcast, where we help driven entrepreneurs next level their leadership, their life, and their mindset. You know, today on the Intentional Leadership, we have Dave Streen. He's an inventor, manufacturer, designer, multiple time business starter, and we'll talk about that here momentarily. And now he's an author of a book called Inventing, From Mind to Market. He's brought over 100 products to the market, and we'll hear about his formula, how to make it happen, why he's sharing his secrets. And if you have an idea, a product, or want to hear his process, this will be a powerful time. Dave leads ELF for Genius Network for aspiring entrepreneurs. He's started and operated, like I said, over 100 businesses. The sky's the limit when you want to create. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thanks so much, Graham.
That's fun.
Happy to be here.
Over 100. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell everybody what you do, what got you started.
Well, obviously I'm an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. I love creating, love inventing, stuff like that. So, just always, the mind's always, spinning in a million different directions and stuff, and creating and actually producing stuff's how I kind of let the steam off. So, I wind up with a lot of stuff and, a lot of projects and stuff, but that's what excites me.
Yeah. So when did you invent your first thing?
So I actually was kind of forced into the inventing world. I used to be a automotive dent repair technician that would go around the world fixing hail damage on cars. And I was working in Australia one year and using a rod that was ergonomically incorrect, and it's very repetitive, and I wound up like really damaging my shoulder. So to the point where I couldn't do my trade anymore. And so I kind of went from a very high income to zero overnight and had to figure things out. And I tried a lot of different things. And that's part of why I've created over 150 different companies and projects and stuff like that over the years. But inventing kind of is where everything kind of came together for me. You matched my unique abilities with a need in the market and stuff like that. So, I started designing tools that were ergonomically correct for dent repair. So, and that's kind of, I've been very vocal in raising the issue. Painless dent repair is what it's called, and it's not many people know about it. And it's such a young industry that we didn't really know the long-term effects it had on the body and stuff like that. And so I kind of raised the awareness around that, where we should, just like professional athletes, we should stretch and warm up before and after this rigorous activity and stuff, yet we don't, and especially hail chasers will sit on the couch for the whole off season and then go expect to work 16-hour days, like they're nothing. So I just try and share a lot of that stuff in the industry and design tools that are going to help techs work longer with less fatigue and less pain and all that. So that's kind of how the inventing came about.
Oh, cool. So you're chasing hail. I mean, do you sit and watch the news channel or the weather channel?
I used to, so my, this big joke of my entire life is revolved around the weather. So before I got into the dent repair, I was running car wash chains. Oh. And so like every day of my life, I knew what the weather was, and then with the hail, I was watching globally what the weather is. And I'd see the patterns, and I mean, it's crazy. You watch the full moons and the temperature shifts and all this stuff to try and predict and be the first one. There's a line that, if you want to make money in hail, you need to be there when the ground's still wet. You can't be there a week later or something, all the good spots are taken. And so it's, and this was all before, all the Garmin's and all the technology that we have now. We were using Noah and, going to, we had cell phones when I was chasing, but it was like, I would remember a time where I'm on a cell phone talking to a buddy so he could be on the computer navigating me using Noah software and, plotting coordinates on the map and telling me where to go. And it's a crazy thing that nobody realizes happens.
I never even thought about it. I mean, I just, first of all, I don't live anywhere that's been, significantly impacted by hail.
Yeah.
Secondly, my cars are in the garage. So it's, I mean, that's the other piece, I guess. If I wouldn't probably know.
Yeah.
But so do you guys actually fight over, hey, that's a cool spot. It's off to the right on the corner in the wall, high traffic patterns. I mean, do you look at,
there's some of the big companies would not only get the prime spot, they'd rent out all the other spots in a small town.
Oh, so
they'd be the only show in town, and it's funny, it's this whole ecosystem. So we're the car guys going around trying to fix all the cars. There's the same thing for house roofs. There's the same thing for your siding. They're the adjusters that travel for storms. So we're all staying in the same hotels and see each other, year after year, and doing totally separate things and don't really know each other. It's funny, but it's this whole little world nobody knows about.
No kidding. So, did you always think you're going to be an entrepreneur then and not an inventor?
Yeah, pretty much. My parents were both entrepreneurs, so I kind of grew up in it. And just once you step out of that, 9 to 5, whatever you want to call it, more like 5 to 9 now, I think. Yeah. But once you step out of that and you're working for yourself, I think you're ruined. Where I don't think I could go back to punching a time clock and doing what somebody says. It's like, no, once you taste that freedom and do your own thing long enough, I don't think you can go back.
Yeah, I'd probably be the world's worst employee at this point in my career. I could do it. I mean, if I needed food and shelter, then
we could do whatever. But it wouldn't be what we want to do, I don't think.
No, I would melt up and shrivel up and die sooner or later. But so you're chasing fire. I mean, are you or not chasing hail? Are you in the in like the Midwest? Where are you living? How do you get started chasing hail?
Yeah, I was living in Wisconsin. But it was kind of ironic that I rarely ever got to work Wisconsin because Texas would get hit. All these other places would get hit. I'd go chase those storms and then it hit at home. And it's like, well, I already made a commitment and have everything set up and running. So I'll just stay where I am, and stuff. So it's funny. And it's like, one of my projects was called the World Hail Network, where I was trying to make an app that people could know where you were at the time. Because like I said, I was in Wisconsin, but I'm working in Texas. The guy from Ohio is working Wisconsin. So we couldn't figure out hey, I've got my buddies need their cars fixed and they don't want to wait till I get home. Who's in this area? And this is before Facebook and everything. So we were trying to figure out nobody was where they were supposed to be. We were like ants crawling all over the place. And so,
that's funny. Yeah, what a strange thing. So was there any defining moment or intentional shift where you went, I mean, you had mentioned the injury, but I guess maybe that's the answer. Okay, I'm done with hail. I'm injured. I'm going to create something ergonomical. I mean, is that the defining moment in your career where then all of a sudden everything exploded in the invention world?
In the invention world, yeah. And it was actually, so if you push a dent too far up, you have to knock it back down. Okay. And so we have these things called a knockdown, and everyone's shaped like a pen. So if you're holding this thing and hitting it with a hammer, you're pinching all those nerves and tendons and all the vibrations coursing through your hand. So I set out, and you're doing that thousands of times a day, every day of the week, So I said, all right, how do I make a totally ergonomic knockdown? And so I basically said, all right, if I'm in space completely at rest, that's how I want my hand to be. So I made this thing that fits on your fingers, and it's actually on the original cover of my book. Sorry about the listeners. But it wraps around each finger. So as you hit the top,
now I get it.
Force goes around your fingers to the point. So it's completely ergonomic. Your hands are relaxed. You're not gripping anything or anything like that. Well, that's a product I'm probably most proud of. That's why I made it on the cover. So the original cover, not the current cover. So I'm using that one day, and myself, and I have this aha moment that this isn't just for fixing dents. This is for anybody hitting anything. So nail setting, leather stamping, anything that you're going to hit a punch basically with, this design works better for that. So I went down this whole other rabbit hole of trying to get into Lowe's and Home Depot and going to the inventor worlds and all of the big trade shows and everything. So went to Vegas, went to Pittsburgh, all these different things. It's funny because I got to pitch to the Sham Wow guy.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, this is great. You're the best pitch guy in the world, and I'm pitching to you.
Right.
And stuff.
Talk about pressure.
So yeah, so just fun different things. Like you could never plot out, I'm doing this because it's going to take me here. Like
Right.
it doesn't go anywhere where I think it's going to take me, but it's always more magical anyway. So
When I saw that on the cover, I thought those were brass knuckles. I'm like, what in the world? He didn't invent that. What's going on? I'm confused.
Too funny.
Yeah.
So and that's the new cover is all boring and clean, but the marketers tell me that's better.
You got to listen to those people you pay money to, right?
Yeah.
So now, is there did you physically get hurt and have to stop working, or was it just kind of this slow realization?
Yeah, no, I had to stop. I basically was able to finish out Australia, but luckily I was working with a tag team partner, and we just swapped, and I'm like, hey, I cannot do another roof. I'm going to go to the sides. You finish the roofs out and whatever. So I was able to use different tools and different body, mechanics to finish that storm out. But the very next storm that I went out on, I knew I was done.
Right.
So it was
interesting.
Wow.
And that's wild. And then, so that starts this process and okay, I'm going to create better, more ergonomical, safer ways for the auto body industry, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. And then are they being used throughout the US, throughout the world?
Throughout the world. Yeah.
Okay.
So
how do you find your tribe? How does somebody go find a brass knuckles with an edge on the end?
So and then that's the tough thing that I've learned with inventing is that when you are so far outside the box,
right,
nobody just looks at this and gets it. They're thinking brass knuckles, they're thinking what is that thing, and so you have to start explaining from ground zero, and that takes a lot of it takes time, so that takes their attention, and in today's world of marketing, that's a scarcity. Right. So it's much easier to take something that already exists and make an improvement to it. Because then they go, oh, I know what that is. I get it. I see why he did it this way. There's no explanation. They just get it. There's actually a quote in the book that my wife said that if the product sells itself, you don't have to sell it.
Right.
And so it's so true. If they just get it and go, oh, that's what I've been waiting for,
right.
Take my money, versus here's this thing you've never seen before. It solves a problem you didn't know you had. It's a much tougher battle. So
right. It's rather obscure, right?
That's part of that. Like if you would ask me now, over a decade later, would you want to be the guy that brought out 4 products, or would you want to be the guy that brought out 2 that everybody knows? Like, I think bringing the 100 products to market it taught me a lot of things, and I'm grateful I did it, but it added so much complexity to what I was doing, where Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, has the self-managing and self-driving company concepts where to get Edgy Tools, that's my tool company, to the point where it was self-managing was quite the hurdle. I mean, it was very complex, a lot of moving parts and everything, to where now it can operate where I probably have to step in about once a quarter and do some stuff. But other than that, I'm able to coast for a long time and everything else. But it took years to get it to that. And I don't think it'll ever be a self-thriving business because there's much.
Yeah. How do you stay with, keep that optimistic abundance mindset going when you're putting 100 products out, you're grinding away and you're trying to also make it, self-sustaining
Yeah,
business?
it's so again, now I'm a lot more selective. I have killed more products over the last 2 years than I've put out of new ones. So it's been one of those, what do they call that? Subtraction to multiply. I've been simplifying, and I'm getting ready to do it again. I just printed all my year-end numbers and everything, and I'm gonna basically focus. There's 5 pages of products listed on the report of how many I sold throughout the year and how much money they brought in and all that. And I'm only focusing all my marketing on page 1.
Yep.
And then page 2 through 5, I'm just going to look and see if there's any sleepers that maybe if I had done a better job marketing and letting the world know about them, they would have done better. But other than that, those are the ones that I'm going to be phasing out. As they sell out, I'm not going to replenish the stock. I'm going to try and get my SKUs down to where there's fewer, but way better products, way more needed. And the industry votes with their wallet is how I always look at things. And so either they aren't voting because I did a bad job explaining it, or I didn't market it enough to get out in front of them, or it just, they didn't see the need or the value there. So that's how I'm kind of weighing everything. Basically, like Nick Peterson, our friend, says, is use the data. Don't go with your gut, And so that's what I'm kind of doing right now. But
so is that new this year, or is there something else you've implemented in your business that's really been impactful this year?
So for 2024, the biggest things that I've done is added and replaced my team. So I kind of was using some B and C players, if you will, not to bag on anybody or whatever, but just people playing a game that they were comfortable with and I was comfortable with, and none of us were really saying, hey, how can we go to the next level and stuff. And I brought on some hot rods that I wasn't big enough to play with before. And it's amazing what paying for the right talent can do. It's so we've got some stuff coming out that's it's 10 times bigger than anything I've developed so far that I'm really excited about. And that'll be out in the next couple months.
So new products adding. Yep. So you're subtracting, let's say page 4 and 5, and maybe keeping a couple of 2s and 3s. And at the same time, you're going to add some SKUs that are new products. So how do you decide?
20 SKUs a year, I'm going to add 3.
Oh, okay. So you add 3. And
those 3 are going to be needle movers. They're going to really be selective. I kind of, and I talk about this in the book a little bit, is I kind of have this rule that if I'm not willing to invest the money to patent it, I probably shouldn't even bother bringing it to market. And so I'm trying to really create some rules or bumpers or whatever that keep me focused on developing the right stuff. And just because I can bring it to market doesn't mean I should.
Right. How do you decide that? How are you saying, okay, this is a cool product, but it's a waste of my time and money, or wow, this is a cool product and I need to spend time on the prototypes, on the market, on the patent, on moving this forward? How do you determine that?
So some of it I just know from my gut, and my gut's never been wrong.
Hey, you said your gut wrong. You're not supposed to listen to.
Right. It's one of my very number one products. It's in my top 5 sellers and revenue generators. I almost didn't bring to market. I just fully developed it. When I saw the profit margin, I was like, that's too thin. It's just not worth it. But I wanted to have something new for the trade show coming up, so I brought it out anyway. I won the Accessory of the Year award. It kind of put me on the map. I still, 10 years later, I'm selling the heck out of them. Like, my brain said, no, this is a dud, and I went with it anyway. And that wasn't my gut saying go with it. I just went with it almost out of laziness. Like, I wanted something fun for the show, and it was the right move. So it's like, it's tough to know. There's no, you can watch Shark Tank and watch these guys know that's a winner, that's a dud, and you can sit there on the couch going the same thing, but you never know. They pass on one, and you might have thought it was stupid, and then the guy's, doing millions of dollars worth of them. Right. So there's no right or wrong. This is gonna be proven. This is not. But there's definitely uphill battles or downhill, coasting. So it's pretty easy for me, and what I do is kind of play Shark Tank in my brain. So if I come up with 100 new ideas this month, I write it. Every time I get an idea, I write it down, no matter how stupid, silly, whatever it is. and then I'll sit down and just pick out, circle the best 10. And then I'll sit there and kind of beat them up and say, all right, if all my money had to go and bet on one horse, which one would it be? And that's going to always narrow it down to like 2 or 3. And then I just pick one of those, or I'll knock out all 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my process now. Real scientific. I'm sure it's the same way Apple does it.
That's right. Yeah. No, it's so you have this idea.
Yeah.
Or many ideas. You jot them down, which is kind of chapter 1 in your book.
Yeah.
You have the idea, you jot it down, then you go protect it first. Is that what you're saying?
A lot of times. So like this new one that I'm coming out in the next month or two, I did not plan on protecting it at all, but I actually came up with this developer and the CAD guy, some 2 features that are like, in my mind, game changing. Like, and that's a good thing. When I go, how did none of us think of this in the last 20 years? I know I've got a winner.
Right.
And it's a deal that when they see it, they're going to go, oh my God, why wasn't it like this? So I'm going to protect that so that my tool is the only one that can have that feature.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, that's, I know I'm being vague, but I have to be vague because I haven't released anything yet. So
no, that's all right. We'll wear you down.
Your listeners aren't going to know what I'm talking about, even if I got specific.
How many people?
An everyday, tool.
And then, so you beat up the idea, you come up with it, and then you create a prototype. Are you doing that in house? Are you paying people?
So my joke is I like my fingernails clean. Like I try not to touch tools. Well,
you are pretty,
It would be a lot faster. My friends that have tool companies do a lot better than I am. They have an idea, they send it to one of their guys. He goes out back and makes one, and they have it in their hand an hour later.
Right.
Mine, it can take me 9 months to get a prototype made.
Oh wow. Okay.
So it's not efficient. But we were talking before the show, like quick starts. I'm a quick start. I need things in place to slow me down. So I need to put bottlenecks in place, or, it'd be a disaster. So I don't mind that it takes me a long time. It makes me very conscious of, yes, this is worth seeing through to the finish line and stuff. And then there's times where I get the prototype and it's perfect. We go straight into production. There's other times where I go, ooh, that didn't work like I thought. Let's go back to the drawing board. And there's shortcuts. I'll get 3D printed parts, that I can have in a few days or whatever, to give me an idea. Is this the right shape? Is it the right size? Whatever, before I go,
right.
Making a cast or something like that,
Yeah.
Committed to.
And then when you market, so then the part 2 is you make the thing. So now you've got this product, you go, it's this ambiguous tool that we're talking about right now, and it's coming to market in 2 months. When do you start to go from prototype, making the first thing, and then creating the packaging of it? Because that was a big deal in your book was, hey, look, you got to make this thing that somebody wants to pick it up and touch it.
Yeah. It's so one step in between is I like to get it in the right hands to get their feedback and make sure that they're seeing it the way I'm seeing it. Make sure there's not like some simple little, hey, I love it, but why didn't you make this a little wider? Oh, because I didn't think about it. That is better,
Right.
Those moments. So I have some trusted people that I've, and I had some people that I thought I could trust that I learned, hey, don't show them the prototypes, and
Right.
stuff. There's when I first started my tool company, my buddy asked me, how are you going to market, this stuff? And I said, I'm just going to tell one dent guy and tell him to keep it a secret because it's such a small industry. We all talk to each other and it's,
Right.
So it's got to stay close knit or whatever. But yeah, so once I know I've got the home run, I've got it, into manufacturing and packaging and all of that, then I usually try and release it at a industry trade show or something. There's a book, I forget what the exact title is. I want to say it's like 1,000 copies or something. There's like a rule that if you sell your first 1,000 books, and if it's a good book, it's going to just keep growing from there on its own. Sort of like that with the tools. If I can get it in enough techs' hands, they're going to do the marketing for me. They're going to tell their buddies about it. They're going to post it. And luckily, I've got great distributors around the world that will, buy a small batch and test them in their market. And if it goes well, and then it goes. And it's so funny because, and I don't even know the reasons, but like Japan will sell this one like crazy and won't sell the other one. Whereas Europe will do the opposite, and the US is different. Like, and I understand the US, we have more big trucks and things like that need bigger, heavier duty things and stuff. But it's really funny how different areas one tool will kill it in an area, and the other tool will be a dud in that same area. So it's one of those, can't tell what's actually happening and stuff. It's just like marketing. Half my marketing's working. I wish I knew which half.
Yeah, just keep spending the money.
Yeah.
And so you're outsourcing everything then. You're basically finding a shop to do the production if you're keeping your nails clean. Okay.
Yep. So, and now, like I say, I've changed the teams around a little to where now I've got a couple different teams doing different CAD work, so I can work on more than one thing at once, but keep them focused on only one thing at a time. Then it goes to, I can either work directly with my manufacturers, or I've got another company that'll source manufacturing for me. Stuff like that. But yeah, I want the packaging. So now it's to the point where I don't even receive the bulk order anymore. I have them shipped straight to my fulfillment center. And then I have my fulfillment center open up the pallet or whatever it comes on. They'll open up every box and grab 2 from different sides of the box, or 1 from the center or whatever, depending on the product or whatever, and send me, 40 samples. And that way I've got them here. I can check the quality, check all that. It's more spot checking than checking every single one. Now, there's certain manufacturers that I still have them shipped to the house because I want to touch every one, because it's a product that if there's a flaw in it, it might damage paint. I don't want to be responsible for something like that. I want to put my eyes on every product like that, and stuff. So there's no set way of, here's the assembly line, let's kick it through. It's messy. It's all over the place. It's custom for each thing. If I'm getting something made that's lithium ion battery powered LEDs, it's going to be made over in this country, because they're the only ones that do those things. So it depends on what I'm getting made here, what I'm getting made overseas, all that kind of stuff. So lots and lots of variables.
How do you keep a healthy work-life balance when you have all these balls going? I mean, you mentioned your wife. I think you have one daughter, if I remember.
Yep, yeah.
So how do you keep all that going?
I'm a lazy workaholic. So when I'm working, I'm going full steam, and then when I'm not, I'm not.
Okay.
So it's I do not keep regular hours. I do not keep regular schedules. When I'm working on a project, I could go, like I'm working on a book with a Genius member right now that I've gone 2-3 days straight without sleeping, but just because I'm so excited. Like, there's no deadlines or anything. Like, I'm just so in the flow and working, and then I'll crash and sleep 15 hours. And I know it's not healthy or whatever, but it's just how I've always kind of been. And it's like, but when I'm done, like over the holidays, when I was around family, like I was unplugged. I wasn't checking the phone or email. Like, I was present and stuff. So it's, I don't think there is such a thing as balance or whatever. And like, so I like to look at, like, Dean Jackson has this, I know I'm successful when, and you fill out, and it's like some of mine is I'll only set an alarm clock 12 times a year, and half of those have to be for something that I want to do.
Right.
Okay. That's just one of my rules that's how I know I'm being successful. So, and my joke is always, I am up between 5 a.m. and noon every day consistently.
I like that.
Yeah. But so it's, and usually when I say the word deadline, I put fictitious, because almost every deadline I deal with is a fictitious deadline. Like, I've got a trade show coming up. That's a hard deadline, but is it really? I mean, I've shown up without tools and still had a great time, and it didn't change my lifestyle. It's like, so most of the deadlines we impose upon ourselves are just, there to inspire us or pressure us or something. But I think most people use them the wrong way and cause anxiety, and that, they're bagging on themselves and hard on themselves because of these deadlines that they put on themselves. So I try not to do that to myself.
So all of your flights are at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so you can make it. Is that right?
Yeah. The only way I know my travel itinerary is my wife's like, make sure we're leaving tomorrow. Well, where are we going? It's, she's got my bags packed and ready. Like, otherwise I'd never make it to a flight. Like, my brain doesn't work around schedules and stuff. Like, it was funny, like during COVID, everybody was like, oh, I don't know what day of the week it is or whatever. I'm like, welcome to my life. I never know. Like, it's like when you're not packed scheduled, whatever, over scheduled, you create the space for the freedom or whatever. I don't know not explaining this well. It's, if you're too overly packed, there's no room for any magic to slip in. And so I try to make sure, like, I don't schedule anything in the morning. Like, when we scheduled this, I probably said afternoons are best. Okay. Yeah. I don't schedule anything before noon unless it's like, oh, that's the only time it can happen. Because the mornings are mine. I want to walk. I want to journal. I want to, stretch, whatever I want. I want to have my coffee in peace. I want to read. Mornings are mine. Afternoons, I'll do whatever I got to do. I'll work till midnight, whatever, if I have to. Like, I forget what the term is, but there's a term that whatever the amount of time you allot for a task, that's how long the task will take.
Right.
So if you say, oh, I'm going to clean the house on Saturday, it's going to take you all day Saturday. But if I said, oh, we got company coming over, you're going to clean the house in 15 minutes. They might not be the same level of cleanliness or whatever, but it's like, if we give ourselves a tighter window, we'll find a way to get the work done, And Ilko de Boer taught me that if you show, how'd the phrase go? If you show me a man's schedule, I'll tell you what he cares about. And most of us schedule work, and we don't put in what we say is most important to us, our family, our friends, our fitness, all that stuff. So he taught me to flip the schedule, put everything down that you really care about first. Don't give your family your scraps on your calendar when you're tired and burned out. Give them the prime spot. You'll figure out a way to get the work done.
Right.
Exactly. So
Janelle has a whole, not a whole book, but a couple chapters in her book just on scheduling, and has kind of taken some inspiration from Dan and Strategic Coach, and then just magnified it, or even Stephen Covey, and just said, look, here's the deal. Here's my calendar for the next 18 months. Hope you have a spot on it, because if you don't, you're probably not getting in. And she starts with known vacations, known non-negotiable meetings, and known family events such as Christmas break for the kids, or spring break, or Thanksgiving, or summer, or whatever. And so she puts all of that first, and then I'm going to shove in some work here. And she's like you. I wouldn't say noon as her starting point. I'd say 11, but her mornings are hers. And, so she really is very intentional in her case. She has her coffee, she journals, she spends time in the Word, she does her meditation, she does her sauna. She's very structured in the morning, though it's space. Even though it's structured, like you just said, it's still free space.
Yeah.
She could be inventing or writing or doing something that's just like you. In your morning, you're probably coming up with your ideas.
Yeah.
Because you have created space.
I'm glad you said that. That's, I think it was Dr. Jeff Spencer that taught me that most of us, when we wake up, we spring out of bed.
Yeah.
And we go to start our day, whatever. Don't. If you lay there in bed, that's the most creative, imaginative time of your whole day. Nothing from the outside world's come crashing in yet. You're not thinking about anything else. Just stay in bed and take some inventory and think. That's when I come up with my best tool designs, my best marketing ideas, my best everything is in that magic moment from the time I wake up to the time I actually get out of bed. And there's days where I'll lay there for an hour sometimes, and it's just I'm coming up with what I think at the time is brilliant ideas and stuff. Now, when I wake up, get out of bed and write them down or whatever, maybe I'll beat them up and they're not so as great as I thought they were or whatever. But that's some of the best thinking time that I do. I don't know if you ever read The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, and he says the thinking time. That's
Right.
That's the best time for me is in the morning, like right when I wake up. I think I'm the most creative.
Right.
So,
And
yeah.
I noticed that for me, you lay there
Yeah.
and all of a sudden all these ideas are just being dumped in your brain. Or the other time, like last night for me, it was I laid down and all of a sudden I went, oh, I have an idea. And then it was, oh,
Yeah.
dang it. Now I got to just get out of bed because this is a, but you're right. It's it's slowing yourself down, coming up with the space and then doing that. So who motivated or who inspired you? Who was somebody that you looked up to and inspired you?
Let me answer that in a second, but real quick,
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to capture how you capture your ideas, because
Oh.
we have most of our best ideas at the most inopportune times. Again, waking up in the morning, right before we go to bed at night, in the shower is a huge one. It's usually when the calm is quiet, we're unplugged and there's, and so like if you're in the shower and you have $1 million idea, what are you going to do with it? You're going to forget it by the time you're doing your hair or whatever. So like having ways to capture those ideas, whether you're using Siri or Alexa or something like that, or I even went as far as bought a waterproof, pen and paper thing for in the shower at one point, and pens and paper on every nightstand. I don't think there's a room in my house that doesn't have a dozen pens somewhere like within reach of where I sit. Just to get it out of my head. And there's something magical about pen and paper. You can punch it into your phone or whatever, but the digital loses some connectivity with the brain that pen and paper do.
Yeah, I agree. I actually have a bunch of 3x5 cards too. Besides my journal, I have those just stacked around.
Perfect. Yeah, and journaling's probably one of the best things that I always say it works so well I stopped doing it. When I'm journaling, everything in my life falls into place, and and then for some reason I get out of the practice. And
me too. I'm not the best.
So, okay. So person that inspires me, I gotta say our friend Joe Polish. I'll tell you the story of how I got into that world real quick. I was talking to my buddy Keith, who's a dent guy in California, and he was like, "You're so lucky you live where Joe Polish lives," or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, is he another dent guy?" And he goes, "No, Dave, he's like the best marketer in the world.
He's a carpet cleaner."
Yeah. And so like, he's like, "Hey, they have free meetups. You should go to one." And so I was like, "All right, I'll check it out." And I went to one and just loved it, loved the people there and everything. And that was about 15 years ago. And I was going to all the meetups every month. And then somebody was moving away and they were going to shut down that local one. And I was like, well, hey, Charlie, there was a girl that was going every week with, and we were like, hey, why don't we just continue it on or whatever? And she's like, all right, and so we took it over and led that program for, the meetups for a long time. And that's where I just, learned about Genius Network and met so many people and helped so many people through all that and everything. And so that's kind of how I fell into that world. And I would